pleasure of having Aimee Dunne. Aimee is an operations expert. Aimee is an author, and she's my friend amongst a lot of things. And Aimee has decided to pull up to becoming Carmen to talk to us about the importance of individuality. But before we jump into individuality, Aimee, tell the world a little bit about yourself and how we met.
Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite meeting stories. And I just have to say, I told Carmen before we came on, I'm zoomed out and I'm so glad that it's her in my Zoom right now, because that's how I want to do a Friday. Um, I am not from St. Louis, but I live in St. Louis and I have for the last 10 years. I love it here. There is so much, everyone's scrappy and there's so much going on. And one of the paths that I've been on led me to Carmen in a number of different ways. You tell the story better, Carmen, but I'll do it. I had the honor of getting involved in Rung for Women and being a mentor in their pilot mentoring program, and got to officially meet Carmen that way. But before I officially met Carmen that way, we were both participants in the same Global Women's Conference, Silver Lining of COVID. We get access to this stuff. And I think there was like 800 people there. But I saw Carmen in the chat woot wooting for St. Louis. And I was like, what? There are people on this conference from Nigeria and South Africa and Saudi Arabia and Scotland. And here is Carmen in St. Louis. And so I just loved her right away. And it was and then we got to know each other better through this mentoring program. And I've been really excited to talk to Carmen about the work that she's doing in the pod she's building, and just her effort, her endless effort and energy and pulling people around.
Wow.
That's a story. It's
I,
happened quick too. It hasn't been that long.
it hasn't been that long. It was like I saw you and Aspire for Equality, and you was just this strong presence. And I wanted to know you. Like I saw that you were from St. Louis, and I had no way of knowing that you were going to pull up in the Room for Women cohort. So when that happened, I'm like, oh, she's gonna be my coach. Oh, I'm gonna get her. But I didn't. I ended up getting what I needed, but some kind of way you were always there in my intersection, like nurturing. And it's almost like I look at it from the Ruth and Naomi standpoint, and it's something I share with my other coach, and I told you about it. Like, you've always allowed me to glean in your field,
Mm.
no matter what. And it's just something about that because I know you, Aimee, but I don't. And that's why I wanted you here because you're getting ready to help me build out some of the operations and really think about what I need to be thinking about as this pod is happening. So when you think about individuality, what does that mean to you?
Well, we started talking about individuality the other day because I had I had the opportunity to write a little bit of a piece for a book of women leaders that launched last week, and it was so exciting. And I was telling you about it, Carmen. And the premise came from, of all things, a sweaty gym, because I started weightlifting, and I shared with you that I am not an athlete. I've never been on a team, but we all go through those really sticky parts in life, right? So I had about a year and a half that was hard, and I was pretty lost and didn't know what to do with that feeling. And a friend suggested that I try weightlifting, and I was like, all right. I did, and I ended up weightlifting for years. I miss it. COVID kind of put a wrench in that for me. But I learned through these years that what I was learning, it sounds so cheesy, but it's true. What I was learning in the gym, I was applying to like my mess of a life outside of the gym. So I got to write about this. And there's five like training principles. And there are things like, understanding your motivations and going back to correct yourself when you need to, and not getting too overloaded because that's unhealthy. And these are all the things that are important when you're like lifting heavy stuff, but they obviously pertain to like our lives and our work and our personal relationships. And so one of those is individuality. And we started talking about individuality. And I think it's a shame that we don't learn it until we're older. And sometimes we don't learn it till we go through hard things. But individuality, when you're training, means that everyone responds differently to stimuli. So I always tell the story of like walking into the gym and meeting my trainer and worrying that he was going to be one of those like, you suck, try harder, you're a baby. Like, you picture that like trainer that's like, "Arr." And like that was already going on in my head. Like I didn't need anyone else telling me that I sucked because I was telling myself that I sucked all the time. And I was really lucky that I got a trainer who cared about what was motivating me individually. So what works for other people might not work for us. What worked for other people in the gym would not have worked for me. I would have left. And I got to find what did work for me. So when we're struggling in our life and our work, we sometimes have to remember that we have unique motivations, right? That aren't the same as everyone else that we see. So especially in our social media culture today, like what someone else is doing on Instagram isn't for you, and that's okay. When you hear of someone that's like an overnight success, first of all, they're not. And second of all, you don't have to be. And even when you hear someone that's teaching you something that says do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 might not be right for you. So like, what can we find that uniquely motivates us so that when times are hard, we can pull it out of our back pocket and focus on it and strengthen it so that it works for us.
You said so many different powerful things, and I'm like, oh, I was thinking
I
about
talk a
this.
lot.
I was thinking about all of these things. So one thing I'm left with is like, we have dreamers in the community pod. Like you've been seeing some of the back
Yeah.
work that I'm doing, and I'm a dreamer. And the one thing I love about the community pod is that each dreamer is the leader and the champion of what they're trying to create. And they may not do it the way that I'm doing it, or they may not do it the way that Aimee does
Yeah.
it. And then I even go back to the email because I promised Aimee I laughed so hard when you sent me that gentle email back, like, Carmen, I'm going to push gently.
I love you.
Here's
But it's
the thing. It was right what I needed to give me that extra to know what I needed to give you. So as I'm thinking about the community pod and dreamers, and the reason why this work is important is because we have to hold space for what they see so that they can walk through what that looks like to get to the next step. And even like I was in my coaching session yesterday at Rung, and I was charged 2 weeks ago to write down these 10 things, these 10 self-love things. And Aimee, all I got down was two. And I couldn't figure out how I was going to show up in coaching yesterday. But I showed up like Carmen, authentic. And I'm like, look, I don't have 10. I got two. But here's what happened with those two. I worked the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And I mastered it. So I'm going to add two more. I couldn't put 10 things on that list because I would have failed, but I could put two. And I couldn't show up to you and say, hey, Aimee, I need this, 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 and this because I forgot.
Yeah.
But when I emailed you and you came back, I knew what I needed.
Well, and the story you're telling is another, it speaks to another thing that I learned about incremental success. So it's one of the other 5 things that I mentioned. And our culture does not really celebrate small gains, right? So we need to do that for ourselves. And we need to realize that it's as long, and sometimes you stop. And I've had to pause and it might feel like failure, but as long as like the through line is going in the right direction and we're finding those small, so do the 2 things first. And then maybe you have the gut and the confidence and the understanding to add another 3. And I love that. And I'm going to say, like, as far as individuality and expectations, these people that you're serving in the pod are really a great example of, on a bigger scale, if we are if we are women, if we are people of color, if we are historically underserved, if whatever that is, I mean, haven't we been told what the expectation is? Haven't we been told how we should be?
Come on.
Hasn't our like unique individuality and our unique motivations have not been honored? And so we don't even sometimes know how to find them.
Look at you pulling up.
I mean, you taught me well. I think one of the things you're doing is honoring that like wherever you are, we're gonna be where you are, and we're gonna help you see more, and we're gonna help you do the things, but we're not gonna prescribe to you how you need to do it. We're gonna tell you. I mean, if I came in and talked to your entrepreneurs about X, Y, and Z, I would say you're gonna be faster if you do X, Y, and Z. It's gonna happen easier for you if you can master this bit. But I'm not going to tell them what they need to be or how they need to do it. And I think that's a difference in what you're offering through the work you're doing.
Very profound. I think as we hold space for people to just be and to just know that they are affirmed, that they are valued, I think that's everything. Again, talked with Marissa yesterday, and it was life changing. Going through Run for Women is life changing. I told my coach at our first coaching session, I am not a consultant. I'm going to throw that away because I'm not a consultant. And that just was like so refreshing to me. But then I pulled up to the Marissa table yesterday, and she just blew the top off my life. But she said something. She asked me like, "Who are you?" Like, but Marissa, you know who I am. But it's weird how when someone is helping you grow, how they ask you questions to pull something out of you. And when I got done answering this woman's question, she said, "So you are an expert." And I just had to sit with that for a minute. Every dreamer in this community pod is an expert.
You bet.
They are a champion. And they need to see their power. It is not our responsibility to tell them what their power is.
Right.
They have a strong presence of individuality within them. And if we just hold space, you'll see gasoline being poured on a fire and it will ignite into something just beautiful.
I love what you just said, because and it's kind of like your background is kind of making me feel it too. When I teach these 5 principles to young people, we call it, "What's your superpower?" And I'm like, why am I only using that language for young people? We all need our superpower. So, and finding out what that is and really owning it and being proud of it. So along those lines of asking questions, if you are comfortable, Carmen, can you share with us one of your 2 things that you put on your list? Because I think you need to say it and we all need to hear it.
Going through Run 101, I thought that initially it was going to be all about focusing on the business, but it wasn't. It was all about focusing on this 6 months is all about focusing on me. So I made a commitment to walk in the essence that is Carmen. And one thing that I know, and that has been said to me over, it'll be 43 years in July, is that I am dynamic. I am a transformative trailblazer, but I always walk in that power for other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped that. I've been walking in that essence for the last 2 weeks for Carmen and fully pulling up for Carmen. And then I've been getting out into my community, into my yard, and just loving myself back to life over these last 2 weeks. I don't play in dirt, but I've been playing in dirt. I've been planting flowers, and just speaking love over for myself. And that has been transformative. The gut shot was when my coach said, this chick, but I gave her the ability to do it. Like, I'm just, that's just what I do. And she was like, we know you dynamic and you help everybody else, but what you doing for you?
Yeah.
You know, what do you, and I couldn't answer that. So I had to go back. So those are the two things that I committed to doing 2 weeks ago, and I've been consistently doing. I won't fall off. The two things that I added is that I'm going to begin to affirm myself in the beauty that I am physically and spiritually, inside and out. And I'm going to walk those things out. And then I'm going to physically find ways to manifest that love that I'm speaking over myself. So now I have 4 things. And this stuff is hard. Like,
Yeah.
people keep thinking this thing with Run for Women and individuality is easy because it's free. It may be free, but none of this is easy. It will
That's why
cost
we
you
don't do it.
everything.
That's why we put it
Huh?
off. That's why we don't do it. We put it off. We don't look
Yeah,
at it because it's hard.
yeah. But if you do it, people will show up. Like Aimee Dunne, operations expert, has showed up to like this pod thing. Like, it's something to it, and I want in. I want a part. You have people pulling up saying, "I'm going to help you with this, and I'm going to help you with that," and that's because I'm authentically being Carmen, and that's what matters. This is the work. And this is the power of interacting with strangers. I don't know you from a can of paint, but we doing this.
You do now. Yeah.
But I do now.
Yeah. I think we're really, over the past year, a lot of us have really missed that connection. And as people come back to whatever this will be, I'm seeing more authentic connecting and selecting who you are going to spend that time with, and thinking about collaborations and partnerships. And I'm so thrilled by that, because that's the way to go. It's like build the pie. It's not you or me. It's everybody together. And I think your focus on what you're doing for yourself is so important. I'm so glad you shared that, because we realize that as we go, and usually as we hit hard places and can't go anymore, we say, "Oh, I'm drained." Like, you can't give from an empty cup. You have to give from the overflow. So, like, I mean, you'll serve more, and you'll serve greater, because you're able to be resilient in yourself and do that hard work. So it'll reap such dividends. I'm so excited.
So we're getting ready to close out. I have to go to the Dream Center to do some outreach work, and I know you have things to do. But this book, tell me a little bit about this book. Where is it? Where can people go read it? Like, what the book?
So it's called Owning Your Grit, and it is on Amazon. You can get the Kindle version right now, and the book is coming out. But we've made the decision, the authors have, to give proceeds from the Kindle version back to St. Louis. There's a couple of organizations that are getting those dollars, which is great. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can look for AIMEEDUNNE. My first name's a little different, so I'm usually easy to find. But I'm actually talking a lot about the book over the month of May. So each week I'm kind of diving in to each of these principles. And this week was individuality, because my chapter in that book, Owning Your Grit, was all about what weightlifting taught me about work and life. And the title, you will get this, I think, I'm going to add this to pull up. I think we're going to add it. The title of the book is Brace Your Core. So we say brace your core because if you're lifting really heavy, you got to be centered, right? You got to be in yourself. You got to know it. Every muscle has to be braced in the core of how you're standing to like, and in life, I think, to do great things, and you talked about it with your self-care practices, we have to know who we are at the core, and we have to strengthen that, and we have to brace that. And especially when things get hard, strengthening that core of us is what helps us get through. So I'm hoping I can help people find that core and strengthen it so that they can go do hard things.
Wow. So people, pull up to Amazon, pull up to Kindle. You see where the proceeds are going. I hope you see what I see in this woman. She's a rare treasure. Um, she's part of that treasure that where you find it and it's so rare that you go back and you bury it and then you buy the land and the treasure too. So you have to understand what you are investing in. You know, this is only a piece of who she is. She's also a consultant. She's all over everything. So go find her on LinkedIn. Follow this woman. She will champion for you. She will get in the dirt. She will get in the muck. We're on to something, St. Louis. And I'm going to say, Aimee Dunne is a part of the pod. So you're going to see a lot more in the coming months. But you are about to see me go into hibernation. So, Aimee, I thank you for doing the last live on Becoming Carmen for a season as I go into rebranding and as we rebirth the pod the way it's supposed to.
I'm
Thank
honored.
you, Facebook.
You're awesome. Keep it up, Carmen.
Oh.